Hello, thank you, and welcome back to our guitar bear camp, which is our blues theory camp, and this is the third part that we're making. And I feel like you should be able to understand this session based on what we have mentioned and elaborated and discussed within the first and second parts. So we discussed chords, the kind of most common chords for blues music, the blues genre, which is the dominant chords, so the dominant family, which is the dominant seventh, dominant ninth, and dominant 13th chords. We've also discussed like the five most common um, or most relevant scales to use as a lead guitarist. We've also are getting into the resolving to chord tones. So we've described the concept of chord tones and gave examples of what chord tones you could resolve to as a blues guitarist, which is the third or the major third and the seventh or the dominant seventh, otherwise known. And so what would be great now is we just continue this lesson to describe and get into eventually what guide tones are, which basically we've already alluded to it by mentioning the third and the seventh. But it's best to just keep everything crystal clear as you become a very equipped equipped and not useful. It's got to do with utility, so I forgot the word, but basically you'll become an intermediate blues guitarist, once you apply a lot the theory that we are discussing here, or I'm presenting here. So, have no fear. The guitar bear's here, so don't worry. So, yeah, I just want to reiterate, but so the chord tones sound more colourful, but still feel like a resolution because they belong to the chord. And many great blues players actually end phrases on the third or the flat seventh, rather than the not dominant seventh. I mentioned dominant seventh. I meant to say flat seventh, rather than the root. And this gives the solo a more conversational quality and avoids sounding too predictable. So a useful hierarchy is as follows. The strongest is the root, third, fifth, and flat seventh. Colourful but still stable is the ninth and 13th. And the most tense notes you can play is notes outside the chord, which usually want to move to one of the notes above that we've just mentioned. Okay, so as you develop, you'll find that resolution is really about resolving to a note that fits the harmony at that moment, not necessarily the root. So the part of the point of making this this video is for people who are so bored and feel limited by just constantly playing the note C to resolve to C when you're in the key of C, when you're playing a 12 bar blues in C. And it's like, no, you can actually resolve to other notes, and the notes you'll be playing is, as mentioned, like notes within chords. So in blues, landing on the third or the flat seventh is often just as satisfying as landing on the root. And this leads to what we'll be talking about, which is resolving to guide tones. So here are the chord tones to the dominant family chords. You may target the guide tones as they clearly define the chord's quality and harmonic function. In most jazz and blues contexts, let's just think about blues for now, the guide tones are the third and the seventh, okay? So, let's look at the chord C7, for example. You got the C, which is the root, you got the E, which is the major third, and that's the target guide tone. So the note E for the chord C7 is the target note that you want to play as when you're arpeggiating as a rhythm guitarist, or you're trying to be a lead guitarist, or you are a lead guitarist. So you would like, try to, end your phrasing on the note E. And then we've got the perfect fifth, which is G, and then we got flat, B flat, I mean. So B flat, which is the flat seventh, and that's a target. So that's the target guide tone. So the two, guide tones, as I just will reiterate, is major third and the flat seventh. And for this, for C7, it's E and B flat. Now for the fourth chord, F7. Let's just look at the target. Let's just mention the target chords for now. Okay, the target guide tones for now. Okay, so it's A, which is the major third, and E flat, which is the flat seventh. Okay, now we look at G7. B is the major third, which is the the guide tone, and F is the flat seventh, which is the guide tone. If you want to look at the more extended chords like C9, you got the E, you got the B flat. It's just the third and the seventh and the flat seventh. Okay. For all the the dominant chords within the dominant family. Okay, so it's just the major third and the flat seventh that are the guide tones, even if the chords are extended, like C13 for example, where you've got D as the ninth and A as the 13th, which the actual guide tones that you want to resolve to as a blues guitarist is E and B flat. You might ask yourself why. Well, it's kind of, you can look at two sides of the coin. You can look at it theoretically, or you can just look at it practically speaking. I think a lot of reasoning behind music is on an imaginative playing field, as on a creative outlet. You really have to follow your ear just to understand the reason why X and Y have a particular relationship. When it comes to guide tones within certain genres of music, it's got to do with, well, how that structure of, resolving to a particular note for a melody, that kind of structure in, following a specific guide tone such as the major third or the flat seventh, that lends itself for our ear to hear those specific guide tones, which for us we associate with blues music. Okay, that's, to me, from my perspective, that's my you can call it a limited perspective, but from my perspective, that's the reason why one would select these particular notes when playing lead guitar or either arpeggiating within a rhythm context. So yeah, that's kind of the answer and part of the bread and butter of playing blues music. Okay, so that's pretty much everything when it comes to the theory that we need to know when it comes to 12 bar blues. Now, if we want to put it into practice or applying the theory written down, obviously I'll show you how to actually apply this practically speaking by playing guitar myself. I will be making a video of playing these chords and these scales. I just want to quickly just highlight to you what we've learnt so far, really, and how we're just applying it to a specific kind of key. So here are the most common 12 bar blues progressions or harmonizations, as well as the relative target guide tones. Okay, as well as the 5 most common blues scales for the chord family. So, we've got the C7, F7, G7, a classic blues standard, by far the most common. The guide tones for for C7 it's E, B flat. For F7 is A, E flat. For G7 it's B and F. And we can look at the other kind of chord progressions here, but I will just let you know that I will be making videos on how to play all how many are there? So all three chords because or chord progressions rather, or harmonizations, because I really want to show you the um, the uh, the options you have within a 12 bar blues. It doesn't just have to be a dominant 7 chords. You can mix them up and use, you know, dominant 13th, dominant ninth, and you can place them as, you know, first, fourth, or fifth chords within the progression. So yeah, so the first chord progression, C7, F7, G7. The second chord progression that I will show you is C9, F9, G9. Third chord progression, C13, F9, G13. These are highly common chord progressions within 12 bar blues, okay? And you know, we will show obviously I will show you the entire structure of a 12 bar blues using these chords, I mean, and all these harmonizations. So that should be good. Now, the last thing I want to show you within this video is just to remind you of the kind of scales that we can be using in practice. And the more you learn about phrasing, and maybe the more licks you learn, definitely, well, the more, not maybe, but the more licks you learn, then you will probably sound um, like like a blues musician. But if you're really partly oriented like me with improvising as a lead guitarist, then you would really would like to know like what kind of scales you want to be using. So you know the first these are the 5 most common blues scales for the chord family, for the dominant chords that we've looked at. Okay, so you've got C minor pentatonic, you've got the C blues scale, you've got the C major blues scale, the C major pentatonic, and the C mixolydian. In the previous, you can see it on my screen now, but in the previous videos, I mentioned or described the kind of sound you get from each scale. But that's very generally speaking. Of course, what matters a lot more is, you know, what notes you're playing, how you're phrasing, the tonality, if you're bringing in vibrato, if you're bending your notes, you know, all sorts of things. And of course, what notes are you resolving to or ending on? What resolved notes are you ending on? You know, after you phrase something, you know, phrase a lick or anything. So that's everything I really need to say for now. And I hope that this has given you a good impression that blues music is more than just C minor pentatonic on a 12 bar blues. Actually, it's got to do with, you know, what kind of options do you have when it comes to chords that you want to play, and what kind of options do you have when it comes to what kind of scales you want to play, and also how do you connect the two together, which is through the guide tones. And obviously, like, we can have more videos like this in the future regarding other genres. We can have other bear camps, guitar bear camps on jazz theory. But of course, just to reiterate one of my first points in my first video, I hope that this has reassured you in understanding, giving you a perspective on your options as a blues guitarist. So the next video I will make and upload will be playing C7, F7, and G7, and also practicing you know, the scales as well as the guide tones to show you how it all really connects into a beautiful blues piece. Okay, so thank you so much for your time, and I really hope that you've enjoyed this and learnt something quite valuable. And if you like more of these kinds of videos, then drop a like and a comment. And I hope you all have a brilliant day. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye bye.